Greetings and welcome, my name is Tobal and this is Oxygen Not Included, a wonderful game that is brought to you by the same developers who made Don't Starve and Don't Starve Together. Is it Clay or Cly? I think it's Clay Interactive, and it is a cute little city builder, not city builder per se, it's more of like colony and survival more than anything. So we're going to start right up. There are two modes to start with. You can do a survival mode or more of a sandbox, less of a threat kind of a thing. So we're going to go with survival. As you can see, we are in, I guess, Mark 2 or version 2 of the early development build, so there are still many changes to come. However, a lot has changed since the game was, I think, first out in early access. Was it, back in 2017? Was that when this first came out? In terms of coming into early access. And I haven't touched it in so long, and if a couple folks suggested it and jumped back into it and got really addicted again. Super fun game. So you start the game, much like, say, RimWorld, with three, they call them duplicants. Duplicants are kind of like, I'm pretty sure they're clones that are generated at a printing portal. And we'll get into that more in a minute, but it's kind of like a line of clones. Like, these are all the Nisbet clones, and these are all the Nail clones. And if we went, full-on Battlestar Galactica, we could call this the sixes, these are all the sixes and the twos and the threes, but we'll stick with some random names here. So, what I'm looking for, and I'll cover these traits here in just a second, but I want to look for some interests, because what you can do in this game is assign your duplicants to jobs, and they can become, for example, an apprentice researcher, I think, or maybe it's like the equivalent of an intern scientist, and then you become a researcher and a better scientist, and you get certain bonuses for doing well in a job. So an interest here will give you will help you master your job 50% faster. So I like to try to match up an interest with an attribute that they already have that I'm looking for. So at the start of the game, and by the way, you will get new duplicants as the game progresses. So I like to have three things. I like to have research, build, and digging. Digging may not be, and by the way, I'm not going to claim to be an expert in this game at all. It's still relatively new to me. I've played quite a bit of it, but I die a lot, so I mean, it's one of those things that this could be a very short Let's Play, but we'll just spin up another one and go for it. But I do intend to do this a little bit slowly and carefully, and I really want to make this go as long as possible. But yeah, there are going to be tons of things that I don't know, so I'm relying on you guys as always. I really always appreciate your comments and your suggestions, and we're just going to jump in and have fun. So Catalina here has the research interest, and she already has 2 learning. She also has 2 cooking, 2 digging, and a little bit of strength. Now, she has a positive and a negative trait. Most duplicants will have one of each. Some have 2, like 2 negative traits and a good trait. So she has the narcoleptic trait, which means she's going to fall asleep any place, anytime. That is a little bit dangerous, because that might mean she's on a ladder and she falls down into a giant reservoir of water and she starts to suffocate. We might not catch that quick enough, and it's a little bit nervous for me. So I'm going to continue on. This is Catalina Mark II, I guess. She is Noodle Arms and Twinkle Toes, so that makes her more athletic, but reduced strength. Now, athletics is how fast you run, which is actually really, really useful to have a high level of athletics on your duplicants. By the way, I keep saying replicants when I was trying to do this earlier, so I guess I just have Blade Runner on the mind, but if I say replicant, I apologize. I do mean duplicant. We'll just call them repli-duplicants, whatever it happens to work out as. So, strength, though, affects her tidying speed, so it affects how fast she cleans things up and how much she can carry. Now, if she's doing research, I don't know if she's going to be doing all that much carrying. I like the fact that she's got like this jack of all trades and attributes, but I think I'm going to fix on someone who has a higher learning attribute at the start. Now, this person has digging. This is Hassan. Hassan has digging, operating, and cooking interests, and he does already have 2 plus 2 to digging, which I think is pretty useful, and I did want one of the folks to have digging. So Hassan is a mouth breather, which means he actually uses more oxygen than everyone else. Not the worst thing in the world. You don't want to have too many of them, though, because it basically will double your overall oxygen consumption. And he is germ resistant, which is pretty strong. Means his immune system is going to be a little bit stronger than others. So I think we'll stick with Hassan. Every duplicate has this stress reaction. So if they get overstressed, much like RimWorld, when they have a break, they have a mental break, they will have some type of reaction. So Hassan is going to be an ugly crier, for example. There's others that are a vomiter, for example. There's also, I believe, one that is destructive, and we'll see some more here in a bit. So we've got our digger set. We need someone with research and someone with construction, or build. Here we go. This is Turner. Turner has a dig, research, and build interest, which is actually all three of the things I'm interested in. However, he has already 5 points to construction, which is great. So we'll pretty much use him primarily as our main architect. He comes with gastrophobia, which means he cannot cook. He has a deep-seated distrust of the culinary arts. Me too, buddy. Me too. Now, Turner is a night owl, so he's going to want to work when everyone else is sleeping, which shouldn't be a big deal. His stress reaction is to binge eat. I feel, dude, like, Turner is my spirit animal. He, like, hates cooking, binge eating. Maybe the athletics and constructing isn't all that great. So who else is left? Now we need a researcher. Now, Gospin here has the research interest, but she doesn't start with any learning skill. And I honestly wouldn't mind having someone come with some learning skill. Perfect. So we've got Ruby here. Ruby is also a gastrophobia. Gastrophobia. She's a grease monkey, which gives her more tinkering. Tinkering is, I guess, just using a machine in general. And you'll see what the using machine skill, the tinkering skill, does later on. But we'll probably assign her to do that. That would be like getting into a manual power, what is it, like a manual generator. You basically ride a bike to generate power for your base. So that would be tinkering, I believe. She's also a binge eater. Cooking, kindness, tinkering. Yeah, overall, these are pretty strong traits. So I think Hassan, Turner, and Ruby are a great start for us to have. Let's go ahead and hit random a few times, the coughing space hut. You know what I'm going to do? We're going to go with Hope. We're going to go with Hope Valley. I think I'm gonna take a name from another game and we're gonna bring it on over to Hope Valley. Now the game takes place. We're gonna embark and get transported inside. I'm guessing this is of a moon, I think. So if we take a look here, you can look all around. We are on a 2D plane, much like, say, Terraria, if you're familiar with that. And we've got all these different types of minerals here. We've got some copper ore, which will let us build certain electronics and other types of things. We've got oxalite. Oxalite generates oxygen, which you see floating around behind us here, this blue. And if I press F1, you can actually get an overview, an overlay rather, of the oxygen. So we've got a room full of oxygen. Here's one. Here's a room that doesn't have anything in it. It's just basically, it's filled with water, but it's unbreathable in certain areas. This room here is complete vacuum, so there's nothing in it. So if we were to breach into this room, for example, we would have to fill it with oxygen. So you have to be careful about where you expand early game. Obviously, we have water right next to us, which is a very, very valuable resource. I don't necessarily like where it's located. I prefer to have it away from my main area, but that's not a big deal. I can work around that. We have some algae here, which comes in handy because we have to use it to make oxygen, and it also can be put into some food. Now, the one thing I'm looking for is slime. Now, slime only shows up, I believe, at the border of this starting section here. If you can, the best way to see it is to go to our temperature overlay. So we start in a nice cozy temperature at, what is this, 21 degrees Celsius. So we're nice and tucked in here, very cozy, warm. You can see the orangish glow, the orange glow on the edges of this zone. So as we expand wider, we're starting to leave this temperate zone, and we don't want to really do that until we have more climate control in our area. Let's go into the germ overlay, because the germ overlay at a glance will show me where there's slime lung. And slime lung comes from slime, and if you breathe it, you can die. In fact, if I click on anything, let's go to a normal look here, it tells you all this extra information about the resource or the thing what you're looking at. So here's a shine bug. It tells you its health, what it's doing, it gives you information about it, it emits a soft light in hopes of attracting more of their kind for company. It eats bristleberries, gristleberries, and phosphorite. Capture method, lure, so it tells you tons of cool information. If we click on algae, for example, it tells us tons of information, more stuff than we're ever going to need. Here's some sandstone. Did you ever want to know what the thermal conductivity is of a sandstone? Well, you've got it, 2.9, I guess, whatever that means. So we got tons of information here. If we click on slime, we can go into the germs tab and see that it has slime lung on it. So we click on slime lung and it gives us the little database entry. So slime lung is contracted by air. It is lethal without medical care. Duplicants will experience coughing and shortness of breath. 9 out of 10 duplicant doctors recommend not breathing in slime lung. All right, so here's our map. What the heck are we doing? Well, we start out at this cool little printing pod, which I'm guessing just kind of spits out our different brands of duplicants here. So what we can do, the first couple things we want to do, and I'll start looking around at the duplicants and all the cool stuff here in a bit, but I want to start the building right away. I personally like to make sure I have a nice even balance between the left edge and the right edge of where we're at. So for example, I can say I'm like 30 or so tiles away from that edge and 30 or so tiles away from that edge. Now edge, I just mean the border between the temperate zone and where it starts to warm up. So not by any means somewhere we have to avoid. It's just kind of a little marker, I guess. I'm gonna build, I like to build nice wide rooms right out of the gate. Oh wow, did they all look at that? That was kind of creepy. They all shifted their heads. So I like to build nice big 4x16 or so sized rooms, and I can start designating them to be above like this. Right, so this is, and we don't have to do this all now. We're not going to dig all of this out in right this moment, but I like to do this to start planning things out. So we're going to have a nice big room here, 16 by 4. I'm going to have a wall here with a door, a kind of a ledge, a ladder, a ledge, and another wall. And then we're going to have another nice big room. So we'll do another, I don't know, we'll do, say we'll do 4 by 14 instead of 16. We'll just do a nice 4 by 14 room. Wall, space, ladder, space, wall. Just helps me plan things out a little bit. And then I will make, fill the gap in. I'll remember this as we go. But we'll have our little duplicant start going here. Now, I'm sure, by the way, I want to give you a disclosure. There's no guarantee that we're going to survive, number one. I don't have a ton of experience in this game. I really want this to be more about, like, hey, let's take a look at the state of this game together. Let's see where it's come from. How fun is it right now? And if you all have suggestions, like, watch, by the way, we're about to breach into this room that had a bunch of CO2, so it's going to mix with our room as you can start to see the gases shift around. So you do want to be careful about how many rooms you breach into. Not the worst thing in the world. We do have a ton of oxalite that is generating oxygen for us, so we're okay at the moment. But yeah, I don't have a ton of experience here. I am going to be relying on you all to help me out in terms of your suggestions and what I should and shouldn't be doing. We have an 8 and 9, so here's our 2 there. Now ladder gap, I know it doesn't really make a ton of sense right now, but you'll see my method to my madness here in just a second. So this is a tiny little hatch. A hatch, I'm pretty sure the hatch is a nod to, what is it? Futurama, Nibbler from Futurama. If you look at the information down here, hatches will excrete solid coal as waste, and their digestion is basically everything. So they're useful because they can generate coal, but they're dangerous because they'll eat anything you leave on the floor. So for example, if you harvest a bunch of lice, what is it? What are they called? Lice pods? What is a lice loaf made of? Meal lice. No? Yeah, meal lice. Oh, it's disgusting. So if you leave your meal lice harvest on the floor, the little hatch dude is going to eat it. So we're going to kill the hatches that are out and about right now, even though they're digging underneath the world. We're going to kill them anywho, because that's what we do. We exterminate. We come into a place and we kill everything. All right. So here's the visual that I was talking about. I've got kind of our little room. If you visualize a nice extended room here, 16 wide, we've got a 3 gap with a ladder in the middle, and then the next room will be over here. So I like to have 2 stairwells that are adjacent to my central room. And as I was mentioning, I don't have a lot of experience in the game. I know there are tons of super highly efficient layouts that we could use. I'm not really going to go into hardcore detail on, min-maxing the builds. There are people out there who do a much better job of, designing this type of stuff than I do. So if you're interested, I'm sure there's some out there. They've got a couple of like highly, where you put all your beds in the same little section with your oxygen. And I like to have a nice big sprawling base though. I like to do a mix of aesthetically pleasing and hopefully somewhat functional. Alright, so what else is going on? We are expanding into a bunch of copper, which is going to be super helpful to start building other things down the road. We do want to be a little careful here because this room is going to breach into some slime lung territory. Now, from what I understand, as long as you have a medical bed, you should be able to recover from slime lung. But we don't want to test that theory too much yet. We'll get a little bit farther into this, and I'll probably cancel the building maybe like right here. All we want from this room is enough space to put down a wash basin and some outhouses. We'll actually put down 2... You know what, we'll put down just 2 for now. We'll cancel the rest of the building and just say, hey, why don't you guys focus on these buildings? So, say you put something down, and you want your replicants to hurry... Crap, your duplicants to hurry the heck up and finish your construction. Well, you have this handy-dandy priority tab here. I'm going to change the high priority to 9, or the priority level to 9. And now they'll basically do that before they do anything else. So that's how I can kind of micromanage what's getting built and what's not. From there, I'm going to have them go upstairs and start digging into this big section here, which I'm going to turn into kind of our dormitory living quarters. I like to have the living area centralized because down the road, your staff will start complaining about the fact that they have a long commute. Like if you build your housing or your cots and your bedrooms all up in this corner, for example, and you have a research bench down here, well, that's a long way your duplicant has to run in order to get to work. So we're going to try to reduce that by having our living area centralized. All right, so don't pee right here. Oh, you're running out of air. Okay, fair enough. So when they need to use the restroom, they'll come in here, use the outhouses. This wash basin, I always have trouble saying wash basin. This is going to help us scrub some germs off us. If we take a look at the germ overlay, we don't have any germs built up yet, I think because we've not used the outhouses, but germs can start to build up and they're a little bit dangerous for your replicants, your duplicants. So, you know what, I'm just going to accept the fact that I'm going to call them replicants all episode. Do we just want to call them Cylons at this point? Let's be real. Alright, so we also need to get some water into our wash basin, so I want to build in, kind of deconstruct this area a bit. Now, I hate having water this super close. I mean, it's not the worst thing in the world by any means, but I kind of like to have it off to the side. But we'll deal with it, and I can probably I can divert some of the water down the road. It's going to take a bit more construction. For the most part, though, I'll probably build down on this section and upwards, and just leave this section alone, other than to use the water once we kind of expose this area. Alright, so, oh, by the way, if you dig and there's sand above where you're digging, it will fall down. So if you're wondering why a bunch of stuff has fallen down, because there was sand up here and we dug out whatever this was it just sandstone? And the sand fell down. Also, the oxalite here will start getting used. It only has so much oxygen before it gets completely consumed. So there's a bit of a grace period when you start the game, but we do want to get our power generation going relatively quickly. So since we have some copper, I'm going to go into my power tab, drop down a manual generator, a battery. Can I put a battery here as well? I can. And then we're going to put the wire in ground. I like to run my wires through the floor like this. And so what we're going to do is let them dig out this section just a bit more, because I'm going to be putting down some cots here for them to sleep on. One here, 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 and we'll cancel the rest of the order on this side. And I will, of course, mark this all as a priority, but they will be getting to it anyways. Not too big of a deal. Wait, cancel, sorry. There we go. I'm hitting some shortcuts, by the way. G is to dig quickly. C is to cancel. X is to deconstruct. What's a priority level? P is priority level. Huge surprise there. You can do the numbers here across the top row in order to change the priority level. Alright, so we have 3 cots, which means our folks should, in theory, once they get tired, find a cot for their own and sleep in it. You can see here that cycle 1 is almost done now. If we go to the schedule, which is right here, little time stopwatch symbol, you can see that this is the schedule for how they're working. Now, I don't know, I guess duplicants are made of different stuff than normal human beings are. And you can see they don't, well, I don't know. I don't know if this totals up to 24. It looks possible, but they don't need as much time to rest as normal critters might. So they only rest for about 3 pips, we'll call it. I don't really know what 1 pip is in terms of the time scale of the game, but I'll just call it 3 pips. And one of these folks, wasn't one of them a night owl, or no? Or did I miss that? Let's see. Oh, here we go. It is actually Turner. So what we're going to do is go into schedule and generate a new schedule. I'm going to rename this night shift. Now we're going to call this night moves. Perfect. Damn it. We must capitalize where we should capitalize. So there's nothing here saying that this is nighttime. This is this is the night shift or what have you. But in theory, he likes to be awake when others are sleeping. So we're just going to change the bedtime to somewhere around midday. And I'm going to follow the pattern that the game has here by default. So two pips of downtime before they rest, 1 pip of bath time after they rest, and we'll set the rest to work. So this is our night shift. This is our, we'll call this the first shift, I suppose. And what I can do is move Turner. Was it Turner? Yeah, Turner. We'll click on Move Duplicant, Turner, and now Turner is on the night shift. So, I actually did test something before. I thought I could make better use of my beds by doing some hot bunking. They will not hot bunk. They only get a permanently assigned bedroom or cot, from what I understand. So, for example, if you were to make 3 different shifts and kind of stagger when people were sleeping, with the hope of maybe everyone, just using the first available bed, sorry, so sorry, that is not an option as far as I can tell at the moment. So we did put some wiring down here, but unfortunately the wiring has made them clear out the dirt in the way. So we will have to replace the flooring with tile before these things become active. So I am getting the generators up. I also want to designate some oxygen generation. We're going to put down an oxygen diffuser here. And again, I'm going to run the power through the floor. Cool. And what we're going to do is make all of these power-related things a high priority. Because we want to get power up and running so we can get the oxygen diffuser up and running to get more oxygen to not die a horrible choking death. I'm going to speed up the game a little bit by hitting tab. You're cold? Are you cold because you're in liquid? I don't think you're really cold, are you? I believe it just hit right here, first shift downtime. It tells you what shifts are changing, which is kind of cool. So you're telling that right now the first shift is getting their downtime. I believe downtime they can just do whatever they want. Much like Prison Architect. I've been referencing Prison Architect a bunch lately, and I might have to go play it again soon. But you can set, specific schedules for showering, things like that. They do kind of do the same thing. You do have a schedule for showering, and they'll go do that. Right there, they were just hanging out. I think they go to socialize. And as we get more duplicants in the game, we might start designating more time or more free time, which I think let's take a look here. Is it every pip of free time? Where's my morale thing? Morale. This says 1 morale need, 2 shift break. So we got, see, if you look under the total value, I can't move the mouse while I'm hovering, but in the bottom left it says total value 2, duplicate 1, new hope 1, grizzly meal, which is the type of meal we have stored, -1, 2 shift break. I don't know if that's a reference to how many shifts overall there are, or if there is this right here. So every one of these boxes is considered a shift then. Work shifts. Okay. So because we give them 2 pips here, 2 pips of downtime, they have a +2 bonus. So it would go to show that, the more downtime you give them, the happier they're going to be. That comes into play later on because a duplicate needs a certain level of morale in order to attain a certain job level. All right, so Turner is starting to use our fancy manual generator here to queue up or to fill up the batteries. Really easy to fill up early game, a lot harder later game. And let's look around, by the way. Do we have any natural gas outlets? I don't think we do. What are you? You're a horrifying looking creature. You are a puffed. Puffed is a non-aggressive critter that will excrete lumps of slime. Well, you're terrifying. What else kind of stuff we have? We have some sketchy areas here with a bunch of slime. There is a pacu inside of the polluted water here. It almost makes me just like want to use an inhaler just looking at some of these areas here. Okay, so I don't see any natural gas deposits, but I do like how much open space is available above here. Maybe we'll make our base taller than we will make it wider. Hey, we finished expanding in this direction, so let's do this. Let's put down our pitcher pump. Thank you so much. So when they have the pitcher pump, they're actually going to bring the water from there over to our wash basin. Now, the directional symbol up here is saying that whenever a duplicant moves in front of this wash basin, at the moment, they're going to wash their hands if they go this way or that way. We only need them to wash their hands when they're leaving the bathroom, so we're going to change the direction to this. So now when they use the bathroom, they will go and wash their hands like a nice, clean, proper duplicant. Excellent. So I feel a little bit more comfortable. We are starting to actually... Does this max gas pressure? Why art thou not... Do you need stuff? Have you not been loaded up with algae? You do have algae. Are you generating stuff or no? It doesn't have the symbol of generating oxygen. There it goes. Okay. I don't know why it was like pausing. So our oxygen diffuser is making new oxygen. This is going to, by the way, oxygen is lighter than most other elements, so it will push, for example, the carbon dioxide here to the bottom. And one of the things you want to do, not necessarily early on, but something you can work towards, is having a waste, basically a waste bin. Have somewhere where your gases can fall down and start to gather up. Now, you don't necessarily need to rush that, but it is something to consider for later game. Now, that is made easier down the road by having a proper system of piping and ventilation. And in order to get there, we are going to start looking into doing our research. So let's designate another section of tunnel to be dug out. And I will drop down our fancy pants research station. Now, I am making these rooms, by the way, much bigger than they need to be. Like, we haven't talked about rooms, but there is an overlay here called the rooms display. Now, a room will self-designate once it has its requirements met. So, for example, to have a room as a latrine, it has to have a toilet, a wash station, no industrial machinery, and a minimum of 12 tiles in size. So this, in theory, could be a washroom because it has the size requirement, but I believe it's missing the more advanced, it's the toilet and wash station. Maybe it's okay. Let's go ahead and put a door down here, and we'll see if this fits the bill. I think it needs a more advanced bathroom, but I'm not 100% sure. We'll find out here in just a second. Let's go over to the rooms overlay. Okay, there we go. You see the door finished, so it designated as a room, an enclosed space, and it immediately highlighted in blue. So because this is a latrine, we get a permanent effect of +1. You see there, it's giving us a +1 morale bonus by just existing. People don't even have to be in it. If we look at Ruby, for example, we hover over her morale, and did I totally lie about that? I totally lied. Maybe they do have to go in it for the first time. I think I was playing earlier and it seemed like they didn't have to, but maybe they do have to pass into the bathroom for at least one go. Are we missing someone? Oh, Turner's taking a nap because he's a late sleeper. This wouldn't be a bad time to look at the priority level. So you can set priority levels much like you could in RimWorld and say that, hey, if there's a job for artwork, we want Hassan to do it because he has a higher skill for that requirement or for that job. Pink is your people. The darker color pink, the more they are interested in that job. So, for example, we're going to say that we want Turner to do as much of the construction work as possible. Who has really low strength, by the way? Oh, cool. If you hover over them, it shows you their strength. So who has... Does anyone have negative strength? I thought one of them had negative in the strength side of the house. Not really, just kind of okay. So we won't have to necessarily say ignore certain, like you actually can say positive or avoid this job at all costs. So we'll give Turner the job of, or the high priority level of building. We will say, what does Hassan do? Hassan is a digger and a athletic person. He's mostly the digger. So we're going to say you are going to be working on digging jobs. Turner is supposed to be the construction person, and so Ruby is going to be our researcher. So we're going to say, Ruby, I want you to focus on research jobs once they come up. Now this is primitive and compared to the actual job ability here in just a bit. You can see the job tab, but that's not ready because we haven't researched it. So we'll get there here soon. So let's put down a research station. I'm going to preemptively wire this thing up. Kind of hide the wires in all these different areas. Oh, somewhere along the way I canceled a building job. And we lost the cabling between our batteries and the oxygen diffuser. So let's go ahead and set this as a higher priority at the moment so that we can reconnect our oxygen generation with the battery. You can see that they actually gather the resource first, and then they kind of spit it back out in their fancy little whatever the heck that device is. I also have to fix the floor. When you put wiring down, if it's not on tile, they will rip up the flooring. So keep that in mind as you're building your base. Your duplicants can fall down pretty nasty holes if they do that. Poor timing. By the way, this little yellow bar here that's filling up is how long until the next printable comes ready. So you can print another duplicant, or you can print some resources, and we'll get into that here in just a bit as well. So I think at the moment we're producing our oxygen, which is what we wanted to do. So I'm not afraid to breach down into this next section, which is mostly vacuum. That's okay. We are going to be strong and do it anyways. I do want to, let's see, 4, yeah, wall, boom, and something like, I don't know, this. I'm going to finish building these out a little bit more, because I like to add a couple more things. So this is our research bench. It is telling us that there is no research assigned to it. So here is the research tree. Welcome. It is insane how much stuff is available to us. This is telling us that we need 15 research points, which are generated at the normal research bench. The dark purple, or the purple in general, is advanced research points. That's only gathered from a, where'd it go? The supercomputer. You need a supercomputer in order to generate the advanced research points. So we will get to that soonish. What I really want to try this time is a fire pole. It lets duplicants descend very, very quickly. So I'm going to try to combine that with a ladder in our stairwell to see if we can't go pretty intensely vertical. But the first thing I'm going to jump into is meal prep, all the way through basic farming, because I want these farm tiles. Farm tiles basically count as a ground tile here, and you can start planting seeds that you've acquired. So for example, if we're able to get a mealwood seed by going up and I think destroying it, we'll be able to start making delicious lice. It's so gross, but yeah, it's a thing. It's real. It's happening. How do I want to handle breaching into here? How big is this room? I'll tell you what, let's put an order to build a protective wall in this gap. And I'm going to make this high priority. So as soon as anyone breaches this space, they're going to try to build tile here, which should block out the gases, which might contain slime lung. I don't think it's going to be like an instantaneous thing, but honestly, I don't know. So I'm hoping if you're sitting there screaming at your monitor right now, I apologize in advance for our future death. No, we could put down a medicine bench pretty quick, so that shouldn't be too much of a problem. Cool, so they are going to be working hard. We've got Ruby working the research. We have, someone needs to start doing the, oh, you know what we could do, by the way, is I can make a, let's put this threshold at 60% or so, like 70% maybe. We'll say that whenever it hits 70%, we want someone to get on the battery recharger, and we can make a higher priority level. So I'm going to give it a priority level of 8. Which means that all these other jobs that happen by default have a default level of 5. So cleaning the dirt up, cleaning, you know, I don't know, taking the trash out, reloading the oxygen diffuser, which we actually want to have at a higher level as well. Those are all at base level 5. So we're going to increase the priority of certain other jobs, right? Hey, did any of you get slime lung just now? No? You guys good? Okay, cool. What do you mean you got no job? Okay, there you go. Let's put a tile in this little gap here. Are you dying? What is going on with Ruby? Ruby's having like a knip shit. So there you go. You saw how Ruby was going to the right and they washed their hands. Let's take a look at the germ overlay and see what we got going on. Oh my god, did you guys get slime lung? What is this? Is this food poisoning? Oh my god. Okay, it's just food poisoning. I think that happens from just having crappy food. I don't really know, but isn't that gross? We could designate certain things to be clean, by the way. We can say, let's disinfect this. Let's disinfect this and the door and that. And in theory, if we reset everything, if we clean everything up, we should not bring nastiness with us anymore because we now have the sink. There was a period of time where we did have the outhouses, but we didn't have the wash basin. So we'll finish that up. What else is coming up? We've got some of our research going. Where do we want to have farming? So I am going to have this kind of this vertical... I don't know, barracks for lack of a better term. We'll probably put, there's a glow shine bug up here. Shine bug is kind of cool because it acts as a I think no heat. Let's take a look at the temperature overlay. Yeah, it doesn't generate any heat. The problem is if we put the crops too high up, they can get too hot. Like if we start to build in this section here, they might get too warm. So maybe we'll build somewhere over here. I'm not quite sure yet. We'll just see what comes of it. So Ruby's still working hard. You are... Is this sand? We want to be careful about... I don't think we actually want to do anything with sand. I think it'll crumble inwards, maybe. I'm not 100% sure how that works. So how do I want to handle the water situation? Well, where is our natural... where do we say we're going to put our fancy stairwell? Is this basically... Maybe do a couple more tiles here so I keep everything centered. So we got boom, 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 boom. Like that. Right, do you get the visual there? It's a doorway here. We can actually put the doorways down, right? So this is kind of our stairwell going continuously upward. Now, what I was talking about with the fireman pole is eventually adding a fireman pole. Now, I don't know if they need a ledge to land on. If they do, what I'll probably do is put the ladder to one side and then put the fireman's pole to the other, and we'll have a central tile. Because duplicants can jump over a gap, but we'll have to experiment a bit to see how that works out. But I do want a stairwell right next to wherever there is a fireman's pole. So we've got this. We have these rooms at being, what, like 16? Yeah? Okay, so that means that this is a wall space ladder. Okay, so here's our second eastern ladder stairwell, which would come down right in the middle of our cool little water basin, which, boo, I don't want to mess up the water basin too bad. What could we do here? We could make a water basin lower. We could just generate our, kind of designate our own new water basin. In fact, maybe that's what we should do. This is a wall all the way down to here, right? So if we do something like, oh, we can make it like 4 all the way, how far now? Let's plan this out. This is our ladder all the way down, space, and a wall. So here's where the wall would go. So just like that. So we could have a wall on these, both these sides. Okay, that makes some sense. So we could have a wall here. I think that's what I might wind up doing, is relocating where all the water goes in one fell swoop. And then we could breach this wall and have all the water trickle down. There's some really cool, fun things you can do with the water flow in the game. It is kind of neat. And we can muck about with it. It's, a little, I don't know if it's too dangerous per se. You just have to plan it out a little bit. So I'm going to say that this is going to become our central water reservoir somewhere around here. All right, so it's wide enough. We're gonna get the first few layers, and then we're gonna dig down further to make it a deeper water basin. All right, so what I want to do is put down some ladders here. We're gonna be busy in this section for a bit, and we're gonna start digging into this whole area. So they're gonna dig out this whole section, and then I'm gonna have them come back and dig out even more. We just unlocked a little bit of research. That was the basic farming stuff. So we did get some new stuff like a planter box. You can put a planter box down and it will grow something inside of it. I mean, I guess it's... I don't know if it's cheaper to use the... what are we researching next? The planting tile? Farm tile? But it is one step closer to having a fridge, and we do want a refrigerator as soon as possible as well. So I don't mind doubling up the research right away to have that as a big focus. We are about to get our second duplicant in here, so let me go ahead and put down a bed preemptively. There we go. It's ready to go. So let's hit the choose a blueprint. When this starts glowing, it's telling you that it's ready for your next duplicant. All right, so we've got Max, Airy, and May, and a Pufflet. Non-aggressive critters, that crap, slime. We don't want that whatsoever. So what do these folks have? This is an operate, supply, operate, and research person. Max has 2 good traits. He's got early bird. So in the morning, he has 2 bonus to all skills, which is kind of cool. And he has a lower air consumption rate. He has no negative qualities. I mean, this wouldn't be bad at all. And he could sit there and just run on the treadmill forever, it looks like, because he's super, super speedy. Otherwise, we have Ari. Did I say Ari earlier? Ari, who has negative learning. Now, that sucks off the bat because they have a negative skill leveling percentage, so it's harder for them to learn things. May is a slow learner. So she was actually at 5, apparently, before she got dropped down by having slow learner. and she has an interest in operate. I think I'm going to stick with Max, though. Max has some really strong traits, and biohazardous just means that they have a lower immunity level. Oh, they get so happy. Oh, it doesn't float around. All right, Max, welcome. You are the next contestant on whatever the heck this is. Hope Valley, that's right. So Max, let's go ahead and go into the priority tab, and I want you doing all the operate jobs in the history of operate jobs. Now, you don't have any skill yet in that, but you do have an interest in it. So we're going to skill him up over time. But that means he's going to get right on this generator whenever we need someone to go do it and take care of it. Let's also go ahead and put down a couple storage bins. They won't really start storing stuff because they don't have the free time yet, but we'll get there down the road. They're so cute. Also, I think if you follow them, let's take a look at, what was it? Is it bio? I think if we do the follow cam, they get the center of attention status, and it actually gives them a little bit, is it less stress? Stress change -5% per cycle. Interesting. I thought it actually was more stress, so maybe they feel a little more relaxed. So maybe if you've got someone who's super stressed out, that is a way to overcome it. You are seeing the warning here that says we require a food source. We do have 23,000 kcals, which is just normal calories, but 23,000 kcals in storage at the start of the game. That's why I tend to rush farming. I want to get my farming area up and running as soon as duplicantly possible, if that's even a phrase. I want to also put a tile here so they can reach the algae and expand into this section. Let's go ahead and put an order to attack our hatch friend. By the way, you can totally tame things at some point in the game. I have not gotten that far yet. I think you can basically have ranching, or rancher, which is freaking adorable. Max is getting the crap beat out of him. Well done, Max. Alright, let's speed things up. Again, I'm going to hit tab. I really like that they... I mean, obviously you're seeing a very complex atmospheric system at work here, right? You're seeing the oxygen being lighter than the carbon dioxide, so you'll see this flowing of atmospherics in the game. So you'll start to see some really weird particle effects as you go. But even cooler is to watch if you open up an area that has lots of pollution. Like if we were to dig all the way up here, you would see this pollution start falling down if it is heavier than oxygen. Some things aren't. So I think, I don't know, is it hydrogen? I'm not really big on my chemistry, folks, but, you know, some things are obviously lighter than oxygen, so they'll, they will rise to the top. Let's go ahead and put an order here. I do want to keep having them, sometimes you have to micro how they dig because they get a little bit confused. Oh, you know what? We have to be really careful about where we're digging here because this is all sand. So I'm going to cancel the orders that are going to have sand fall in and then breach the current reservoir. We'll clean it up over time. We'll have to do a little bit of micromanagement for all that. Speeding life up a bit. Turner's so happy. Oh, hey, let's check out Turner and see if he's happier being at work. Yeah, so he is a night owl, and he has 3 to all attributes at night. Cool. So he is super happy to be working at night. We did put down a storage box, but then you have to tell what's going to go in the storage box. For the moment, I'm just going to say everything. We're just going to say whatever needs to be stored will get stored here. He's going to wake up. Oh, now he's a little bit grumpier. You can see his face changed a bit. I would be pretty grumpy, too, to have to sit there and run on the manual generator for a while. Alright, so I think this is a great point to say we'll see you next episode. We'll put a cut in here and I'm going to jump right back into it for more Oxygen Not Included. But yeah, I hope you're enjoying. If you've not played the game, I'm not sure if it's going to go on sale or if it's on sale right now. It does tend, I do see it pop up every so often. It is really, really fun and I love the game. The artwork is really growing on me. But the layers of depth, if you're a fan of Dwarf Fortress, if you're a fan of complex games, this really surprised me with how in-depth it is. So I would highly encourage you to jump at this one if you can. I think it's well worth any money spent. Thank you all for joining me for this episode of Oxygen Not Included. I look forward to seeing you again in the next one. Until then, take care.